Hello, coaches! Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Spotlight. My name is Kim Cafino, and I have worked with hundreds of teachers, coaches, and leaders in schools around the world to help them create thriving and sustainable instructional coaching programs. And I'm on a mission to help you coach better. Wherever you are in your coaching journey, come learn with us in one of our courses for instructional coaches or our private mentoring packages. Join our global Coach Better community and find all of our resources for instructional coaches on our website at coachbetter.tv. If you have a question you'd like to hear us answer or a topic you'd like us to discuss, please drop us a line on our website at coachbetter.tv/ask. Join our Coach Better Facebook group or find us on social media at Eduro Learning and send me a DM. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to catch all of our latest episodes here on YouTube. Today, I'm chatting with Ellen and Bruce Eisenberg, founders of the Professional Institute for Instructional Coaching. I've been having regular conversations with Ellen and Bruce for well over a year now, and I am so excited to share this episode with you today. As founders of the Professional Institute for Instructional Coaching, Ellen and Bruce come with a wealth of experience, decades of experience on building sustainable instructional coaching programs in schools around the world. In this Spotlight episode, we're focused on what systems and structures need to be in place to make coaching sustainable over time. On the full-length audio podcast episode, we also talk about the research behind instructional coaching, how to collect data to measure your impact, and the enabling conditions that make coaching work. This episode is full of big picture thinking about what it takes to make coaching successful and sustainable in schools. If you're curious about systems and structures that make coaching work, this episode is for you. To listen to the full episode, subscribe to Coach Better wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to make sure coaching is sustainable in your school setting, you'll love our new workshop for experienced coaches, Scaling Your Impact as an Instructional Coach. You can find it at edurolearning.com/scale. And I'll tell you more about it, as well as another great opportunity for you to grow your coaching at the end of this episode. Okay, let's jump in. We talked about how coaches can build sustainable practices for themselves. And what I heard you talk about is layering the levels of support that you offer so that you're building in one of my colleagues calls it more coaching arms. So you as the coach are not doing the individual work. And I have seen that work very successfully in my own practice as an instructional coach. But one of the things I've been thinking a lot about lately, and this may be like something that happens so obviously in public schools, and it's something that needs to be intentionally done in international schools and private schools. What are the systemic structures, the structures that on the whole school level, the policies, you talked briefly, Bruce, when you were talking about OCIR, about the organization of the school day. Like, what are those things that need to be put in place? Let's say you get a situation where the school has decided, yes, we do believe in coaching. We want to have coaching in our school. Like you were saying earlier, Ellen, you can't just hire a coach and then suddenly they're coaching. So obviously you have to have the shared vision. You have to have the clear definition of what coaching is. You have to have clarity around the coach's role that has to be shared among everyone. You have to have that foundational work completed. But then, like, within the school day or within the structure of the school, what are some things that you have seen be successful to ensure sustainability of the position over time that isn't dependent on the instructional coach, but is dependent on the structures of the school? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for one thing is an administrator has to have has to offer and provide dedicated time for coaches to work with colleagues. That's number one. So it's coaching time is sacred. Now you can do all kinds of other things. You can say, oh, well, I'll cover them or I'll get a substitute. But you know as well as I do, that kind of stuff, if you find time as opposed to make time, it's not going to work. It's just not. So that's first and foremost, there's a coaching schedule that structurally the school can make sure that's there. Structurally, the leadership team has to understand when and how coaching works. And that's the piece that says, don't pull a coach in to be part of the evaluative practice. That's built into the school structure. So you want to give them time to do their work that's dedicated daily. It doesn't work before school or after school. It doesn't work one period a day. It doesn't work one day a week. That doesn't work. But there are things that you can do in that time. Go ahead. You want to say?
Yeah.
I see that you want to say something before I continue. Go ahead.
And the coach needs something that maybe you would be the coach's mentor. We call that the mentor of a coach. Because I could say I'm a coach, but you know what? I don't know enough about effective practice, and I need to learn more. And maybe you can help me to help them. So that's when you get into, well, do I have to take a course at a university? Or where do I have someone who can help me be better at what I do as a coach? The coach's coach, which is a mentor.
Right. I think in addition to that, I think administrators and coaches have to make time, even if it's once every 6 weeks, 20 minutes, an update. They have to talk about what's going on. Not teacher performance, but what's going on. Coach, what did you notice as you walk around and work with teachers? Excuse me, 3 things that you might need to address, and those kinds of things. And then the administrator knows. So when the administrator is walking around, the administrator can see where it is. So it's having time, devoted time to work with colleagues, not overstepping the boundaries, a coach to an administrator or an administrator to a coach or a teacher to an administrator. So it works all the way around. You have to understand and be mindful of that and be respectful of that.
Right. Now, the other issue is the idea of what we call visibility. Most instructional coaches have to be visible. And we mean visible, not, I only go to the left side of the building, once a week. I mean, that's not visibility. What's visibility is what's offerings. What are things that I am doing that interacts with teachers, whether it be in the written form or in the visible form, to say that there's communication always going on between coach and teachers, coach and administrator in terms of patterns. What are some of the patterns that I'm seeing? And patterns, I did not say good or bad, because I didn't say that. I'm looking at patterns that make it better for our school. What does that look like? All right. So that's the kind of thing that can be, I didn't mention anybody's name because I don't do that. All right. So looking at supporting one another starts to make sense, but the coach needs support. And, you're pretty well versed. You've been a great mentor to a great number of coaches. Right. And I know you've done that, but independent schools have to say, if I hire a coach, that coach has a mentor and that mentor is paid.
Right.
Okay. That's how I look at it. Okay.
So I want to, I want to go back. So it's time, making sure the school offers time, resources, and opportunities. So I'm a coach. Don't give me other responsibilities. Don't ask me to be the testing coordinator. Don't ask me to I'll be the 5th chaperone on any trip, because I don't have my own classes. Don't ask me to do all the data crunching for the whole school because I don't have my own classes. So those are simple things that carry a lot of weight in the structure of the school day. And I would leave it at those 5 things, because I think that's pretty important. The other thing that administrators should know and recognize is that coaches should be on their calendars. So for the professional learning that has to take place, the development and then the learning piece of it, they should be on the calendar for that. And also, it's professional development is not drop in. A coach can't just drop in and drop it on you. It's not like spray and pray kind of thing. It's in order to make it meaningful, you have to invest in it. And that's, the time, the resources, and the opportunity hit everything in the structure that it could be. But administrators have to be helped so that when the schedule is determined, they understand that if I have this class and there are only 3 people registered to this class, maybe I shouldn't offer that class. Maybe I should combine classes, and then that's a release time for a coach. Now I'm going to, I don't like this, but I feel like I have to mention it. And that is sometimes a coach has to teach and coach at the same time. When that happens, one of the things coaches can do is open up their classroom and it becomes a demonstration classroom so that they are demonstrating consistently and regularly and people can float into their classroom. Now, it works really well, similar to the ILV, but on a much smaller scale, that that I teach third period. That's your prep period. You want to come in to see me. Let's talk what I'm going to be doing so you'll know what to expect when you get there. And then afterwards, I'm going to be vulnerable. That's why I said before that coaches have to be vulnerable. I want to be vulnerable and I want you to give me feedback. Because remember, feedback is timely, it's specific, it's non-judgmental, it is right on the mark, but it's not on the same day. And that can be tricky for some places. But those are the kinds of things that coaches can model that they are doing, even though, again, we're purists. I don't think a coach should teach. I don't think a coach has to teach in order to have credibility in their building. I think their expertise and the fact that they're a learner is enough that will carry them, as long as there is no ego involved, as long as they actually want to nourish their own growth, and they do that through either going resources, going to professional conferences outside of the school, or doing their Zooms, those kinds of things. Once they start nourishing their own growth, they can do a lot in the school.
That was exactly what I wanted to talk about. So I'm glad you labeled all those so nice and clear, because I think this is something that many coaches, especially in international schools who get hired for a coaching position, are put in a tough spot, because you asked a very good question. The very first question you asked when I was talking about this, Ellen, you said, why did they decide to hire coaches? What made them think coaching was the right thing? That's the question that needs to be asked in the job interview. I know we're kind of going all over the place here, but it really does connect. Because I have quite a few coaches that have moved to a new school at the time of recording that are just kind of like settling into their position in their new school. And they're uncovering that perhaps the reason they were hired as a coach is not the reason they thought they were hired as a coach. And they're realizing that that first piece of like the foundational understanding of why this position exists is not clear and shared across all leaders. But then B, there aren't all these structures in place for coaching to be successful. So the administrator maybe got the idea because the other school in a neighboring country has coaches, or their competitor school down the road has coaches. Therefore, they need to hire coaches. But none of the systemic elements are in place for that position to be successful. And honestly, that is just a recipe for like daily tears. And, it's really hard to move your entire life for a new school thinking you got hired for this vision, because we can talk about vision until we're blue in the face of what we vision, this collaborative learning environment. But the reality of getting it done requires systemic structures. It requires, when you talked about making time as opposed to finding time, it's making the position successful as opposed to hoping it's going to be successful. And you hit on all of those things that I was thinking about, and you did it nicely in a nice summary there for us. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Bruce, I feel like you want to say something else.
Well, it's simple in a business. What's logistics? That means, what is it that you need to do in order to make something work? That means I may have to reorganize. I may have to change some things that are not, I hate to use this word, not working, because in sales, we know how that works pretty well. You're not selling anything. Well, we'll try something different. But there are ways to say, let me just look at our structure. We have a 7-period day or an 8-period. I don't even know what independent schools have. So I've never restructured an independent school. Public schools, yes, never an independent school.
Anything you can imagine is happening in an independent school. I can tell you that. I've worked in so many different schedules, anything.
Well, because that, once you look at that, if I were being hired as a coach, I need to know what it looks like daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. Because if I don't know that, then it's going to be harder for me just to get acclimated to what the structures are. Meaning, if I don't know enough, I never go in blind anywhere, because that doesn't make sense. And that's what we did at the university. We did a planning year before we even talked about implementation anywhere. So this is where you started to learn about the school. But again, that was a, what do you call it, the school reform grant at the time. So that means there was plenty of money, right, for guys like me that would go in and say, I need to restructure something here, which we did. So I think in the independent schools, if they're so varied, you just have to, I guess, put it out there that you'd be talking to some headmasters or however your network is, saying, here are the enabling conditions for someone to be an instructional coach in that independent school. You can be very helpful to a coach. Okay.
You can be the voice. A mentor can be the voice for the coach that the coach can't do. Early on we said you have to have a voice. It's tough. Coaches cannot be insubordinate. They can't say no to their administrator, and nor should they. But if you have a better chance at not having to say no, if everybody learns together, and then that's what is being supported, and then you have a mentor come in and say, just want to let you know that this kind of thing, it works best if we do it this way. Not, oh, I can't believe you're doing it like that, but just, it's not what you say, it's how you say. So you want to flip the switch a little bit and help them, because, you have to presume positive intentions. Every administrator wants the best thing for their school, their students, their teachers, their families, but they get overwhelmed too. So we have a job to help them understand. And that's why it is a reciprocal action here.
Thanks for watching this clip with Ellen and Bruce. This episode is full of so many valuable insights about how to make coaching sustainable in schools. So many times, especially as international school educators, we're moving from school to school in the hopes that they have all of the pieces in place. Even when we're lucky enough to work at a school that has a full-time instructional coaching position, very often they don't have the structures in place to make the position sustainable. Knowing exactly what's needed and being able to advocate for those systems and structures is essential. This is when you really have an opportunity to leverage all the leadership skills you've been building as a coach and advocate for school-wide change. If you're ready to think about your coaching practice and program from this big picture lens, if you're curious about embracing your leadership as an instructional coach to see the ways that you can scale your impact, make sure to watch our free workshop for experienced coaches, Scaling Your Impact as an Instructional Coach. You can find it at edurolearning.com/scale. After you've been a coach for a few years, you know that you can't just keep working one-on-one with every colleague on staff. That is a ticket to burnout. Scaling your impact requires that you shift your mindset from seeing yourself as just a coach to seeing yourself as a leader, so you can create and advocate for the systems and structures that make coaching sustainable for you as an individual coach and for your coaching program in your school. Watch the workshop at edurolearning.com/scale. And if you discover that you need support as you go through the process, join us for our first global cohort of Coaches as Leaders, designed for experienced coaches ready to advocate for and build the systems and structures that are needed to truly sustain a coaching culture. In Coaches as Leaders, we'll help you recognize exactly which systems and structures you need and might be missing in your school setting so you can make your coaching culture sustainable, and you can scale your impact beyond working just one-to-one to working with teams and groups. Registration opens only once a year. Get all the details at edurolearning.com/CAL. Wherever you are in your coaching journey, we can support you. If you're curious right now, if you have questions, please reach out. You can leave a comment on the show notes on our website at coachbetter.tv. You can join our Coach Better Facebook group, or you can find us on social media at Eduro Learning and send me a DM. I'd love to support you on your coaching journey. See you next time.